outdoor train, backyard train, garden train layout. I've been wanting one for a long time, and now that we're getting farther into the Oasis, I finally did it. Really excited about this one. Spent a long time on it out here in the heat, and I can't wait to show it to you. There's a few things about it, why I chose this layout, why I did what I did, and I'm going to walk you through all that, and I'm going to show you how I did it and what we ended up with. Here's a quick little sneak preview right behind me, right there. So, stick around. All right, there's a lot of different train layouts out there. Everyone has their own thing. You can own half a farm and cover the whole thing in train track, or you can have a little baby one on a patio somewhere. There's some really cool ones online. Go look for them. After you're done watching this, go look for them. I could do a bigger layout all the way around the yard, all the way around the house, probably down the block. No one would mind. You got time, you got money, you got all sorts of other factors in there. I'm starting with a smaller one, but there's some things that I want to make sure are incorporated in it so that I can do a lot of things with it, little future projects, that kind of a thing. One thing that I want is a little tunnel. One thing I want is at least one bridge that I can make later. I want a couple different little areas so I can either set up like a train station over here or something else. I've got a bunch of stuff that I have that are circus. So maybe I'm going to set up a little circus on one side. I say maybe like I'm doing this beforehand, but I have already built it, so I know I'm putting a circus out there. So there's areas. Yeah, there's going to be plants and stuff in there. I think I kind of want to do... Now, a lot of layouts will have different tracks, so you can run multiple trains, and switch tracks, and you can do hump yards or the big rotisserie where the engines go in a big roundhouse, where the engines all park, train barns, all sorts of things. Again, time, money, dedication. I'm really just going to have the one main track that goes around because it is smaller, but I am going to have a little second level with a little round track up there. And I'm not going to run a long train up there. I'll run like a little, maybe one of those little push cars, or I got a little trolley, and it just gives you another element to it. So the layout. Let's see, this is my patio. This is the parking area over here. And then we got a little path that goes up to the fire pit. That comes down. I planted a little tree over here. This is the wall, if you remember that fiasco. And then there's a wall that goes across the back of the thing. So the planter's going to be over here. And originally I was thinking just like a little, it did get a little bit bigger than that. So it's kind of going like this. It's really only about 45, 50 feet of track on the main line. I've seen much smaller done really nice. We have the shape, and then somewhere in the middle of it, there's going to be like a round thing, and that's going to have a second track on top of it. Now, as for the stuff we wanted to put in there, I'm going to do like a little tunnel, because tunnels are fun. Across here, the track isn't going to come around. It's going to come like across. And then I'll be able to do like a trestle bridge eventually right here. And then around here, I thought of doing just like a little, like a pylons, make this kind of like a little wetlands area over here or something. Maybe eventually do like a little pond type thing, but that's down the road. So now I got different areas to do different kind of scenic things with, different kind of plants. I got my bridge element, I got my tunnel element, we got the second level. Another thing, so you're building a planter, you got two choices. You can put the track inside the planter, like on the ground, on the dirt, and then that gives you lots of options that way. What I want to do is put the track on the top, on the edge of the planter. And I have a couple different size curves of the track. They're going to dictate the exact shape of the planter because it needs to be pretty much exact the same as the curve, right? Now that we know what we want, we can start prepping the area. We got to clean and level and get all the ground ready.
Hey, baby.
Hey, baby.
What you doing?
Starting to prep the area for the planter, the train planter.
Oh, nice. I think you should change your name for that.
My name?
Yeah, because you know what you should call a guy with a shovel in his hand, right?
What?
Doug. And then if you put it down, we'll just call you Douglas.
Just don't call me late for supper.
Will do.
Just don't call me late for supper.
Will do.
Now there's a few things I already did, even though I didn't know what exactly was going out here. When I did all the pavers, I ran conduits for future power. I knew I would want power out in the yard somewhere, so there's going to be like an electrical box over here, and then that's going to power any kind of accessory lights, the train controllers for the track, and that kind of thing. And it's also going to put an outlet next to the fire pit area in case I ever want, you know, some power out there for something. The other thing I did was I ran sprinkler lines out into the yard because I knew sooner or later we'd have plants and things like that. So there's already a couple of sprinkler lines run in there. I ran a conduit so I could run the power for stuff. When I did the pavers across the area over here, I knew I might want power out in the yard at some point, but I didn't know where it was going, so I just ran it to here. And then we got sprinkler lines going that way for the thing. I think there's another one that goes underneath the bricks all the way to where a tree's going to go over there. But for this, now I got to extend the power over to there because that's going to be the edge. And that's where I want the outlet. So, because a project can't just be one project, we got another thing to deal with, and that is when it rains really hard, all the water in the yard comes down towards the house because it slopes up. Some of the water goes this way, some of the water goes that way. But now that we've done all the pavers and leveled out a bunch of other areas, it pools just a little bit. So while we're doing all this digging, the flattening, and then we dug a ditch, a little trench all the way around the planter that gravel's going to get packed into to make a solid base. That's also going to be a place where water can collect. So at the bottom of that, I'm going to dig another trench off to the side of the yard, through the wall, out in the gutter in the street, and that way when it floods or rains heavy, we have an extra place for all that water to drain and go. So that was a day. Then we finished digging and leveling out the trench that's going to be the foundation with the gravel in it. And the very next morning, we got a delivery.
Hey, baby.
Hey, baby.
What you doing?
Just running a string line to make the side of the flower bed straight.
So you're a physicist now?
I'm a physicist.
It seems like you're working on string theory. I'm sorry, that joke's hanging by a thread.
Oh, yeah, it is. So, quick recap. We've got the foundation down and we've got the first layer of the whole thing down. That's huge. Everything from here on out is a lot more fun. It's less grunt work and more creative. Let's do this thing. Let's have fun. We got the gravel down. We got great drainage. We've got the extra drain underneath, downstage of the whole thing that goes off to the side. That's going to help the whole yard right there. So at this point, we are super excited. Boom. This is fantastic. So I wanted to take a little break to give you a chance to remember to like or subscribe or follow or whatever, because sometimes in the middle of the video, you don't think about it till the end, then it's over, then you're done, then you're gone. Whatever. If you're liking this at all, really, if you're still watching at this point, I feel like you should, Benny, fun fact, 1,000 years ago when I was young and buff and good looking, I traveled with the circus and I lived on the circus train. And in my train room on train runs, I built a model of the circus train that went around my train room. I thought it was super cool at the time, and here's a couple cars from it. This is an N scale. N scale is 160, I think, scale. And nowadays, you can go buy N scale Ringling cars. Back in the day, you couldn't. I had to find things and make things and do things. And then you're trying to paint little details as the train's moving along, and yeah, man, those are good times. That's what this is. Now, you can go up in size, which is what we're doing for the backyard garden train, and the next size up from N scale is HO scale. That's right here. HO is like the cheapest train you can get into if you want to get into a train hobby. You can buy a whole starter set for less than $100. They're great. That's what I had as a kid. It's what my brother had as a kid. It's what everybody has as a kid. Start out with HO scale. Up from HO scale is S scale, or there's like an American Flyer scale maybe in the middle of that. It's a little bit bigger. Up from that is O scale, and that's bigger. By the time you get to O scale, you're at like 143 scale, something like that. Boom. Up from O is G. G, garden scale. I think in Europe they call it 1 scale. That's big. Starts to get kind of pricey at that point. This one is Bachmann, and it is 122.5 scale, I think. But here's the thing is, this is also considered G scale, and you can see it's a lot smaller. It's like 132 scale, maybe, something smaller, but it runs on the same track, so it's considered all considered G scale. This is what we're building. This is what we used to have. These are some of the things. You can go smaller than N scale. You can go down, you can go to Z scale, which is like 1/220 scale or something. It's tiny, a little bit, and they make little bitty layouts in like briefcases and stuff. It's awesome. And you can actually even go down from that to T scale, which is like 1/400, 450, something like that. And it's these tiny, tiny little chains. And I've never even seen one in person. Even Z scale is hard to find. There's not a lot of it online. This is train. This is what we're building right here. I decided not to use mortar with these bricks. Instead, I went with a construction adhesive. If you watched the fire pit or the wall episode, you'll know I'm not great with the mortar. And for this application, it was quick and simple and easy and fast. A couple of dabs on each brick was a great bond, and it's got a nice clean look. Because we spent so much time leveling, straightening that base layer, now the next few layers actually went really easy, really fast. Couple dollops of the adhesive on each brick, boom, 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 boom. Went around like no time, built it up. It was a lot of fun.
Hey, baby.
Hey, baby.
What you doing?
Measuring out. So I got the base of the planter all done.
Uh-huh.
And now I'm putting on the top layer that the track's going to sit on. And I'm just trying to measure out. This is where the tunnel's going to be.
Uh-huh.
So that'll come around. There'll be a little second level right here. And then when it gets to the corner, I printed out these little pylons. And it'll dip down and the track will keep going, and this will be like a little lower area. We might do like a little cactus garden or something over here. And it'll go around. And then over there's the big trestle bridge. Just finalizing some of the measurements before I glue a lot of the blocks down.
Looks like you're right on track.
We're getting there.
Let's just hope it doesn't start sneezing.
Start sneezing?
Yeah, then we'd have to call it a choo-choo train.
A choo-choo train. Yes. My original idea was to use these maroon retaining wall blocks. They're kind of bumpy on the front, and they would stack up, and with the track being on the edge of them, it was going to be the Red Rock Ridge Railroad. And so on the side of the train, you could put R, which is fun to say. But we're walking through Lowe's one day. I point them out and I said, hey, that's what I'm planning on using on a planter. And she's like, seriously? Those are hideous. The fronts remind me of a popcorn ceiling. I was like, yeah, okay. So we kind of revisited that, and we looked at some different ones, and we came up with just deciding, hey, you know what? We'll just use the same stone as we used on the fire pit, which is these right here. That's great. So I go home, I order them up. I was like, man, these are cheaper than I remember. And the reason why is because what I ordered was these. They're like the exact same thing, but, you know, fun size. And so when they showed up, I was like, oh, man. I thought maybe I should send them back. But I was really anxious to continue working on the things. I was like, you know what? We're going to use them. We're going to do them. The issue with that is when you get to the top, and I flip over, and then I got the flat surface for the train track. The train track barely fits on the top of the thing. It's just too skinny. It doesn't look right. Looks like you're trying to balance it on a railing. So I went back, and for the tops, I got the big ones, and that looks a little bit better. You got a little bit more space on either side. The train isn't going to be hanging out over the edge, that kind of a thing. So the tops, I got the flat. That worked out better. And now, in hindsight, I'm glad we did it that way. I think it looks a lot better. Where the big block sticks out a little bit at the top, it does kind of look a little castle-y, or the middle part kind of reminds me of a Super Mario Brothers pipe. Yeah.
So we've got most of the perimeter done, and we've got the top layer set in place. Now it's time to do some serious thinking about the tunnel. It's not a super long tunnel, but it needs to be as tunnely as possible, and we need to make sure the train fits through there.
Now the very top row that I used the bigger bricks on, I turned them upside down. So the flat side is up so that the track has a really nice flat level surface to sit on. What that does though is it puts the bumpy side of the brick against the bumpy side of the other brick. So no matter how much you try to level and flatten out each layer, you put bumpy side against bumpy side and you got some problems. So while I didn't use mortar for all the normal joints, I just used the adhesive, I did go ahead and use mortar for a lot of that top joint because there was a lot of spacing issues. Sometimes I had to grind down a bump on one of the bricks, and sometimes there ended up being a big divot that I just needed to fill. And if you got to fill a big space, that adhesive really isn't cost effective to do that. So for the very top row, I did use mortar, and I had to go back around and really want to level everything. Because when you put a grade or a warp into the train track, you're gonna have to deal with that. Every time a train comes around, you're gonna see it go oop, oop, oop. It's gonna bug you. So you want to make sure it goes nice. When I got to the top layer of the second layer, from building the big wall on the one side and the short wall on the other side and going around and melding it into the other walls with the tunnel and everything, it somehow got a little bit off. So there was a lot to fill. There was like 3/4 of an inch at one point where I really had to kind of get it back to happy. Otherwise, there would have been a downslope and an upslope and a downslope and an upslope, and that would just be weird.
Hey, baby.
Hey, baby.
What you doing?
Getting ready to start putting some dirt in this thing. I got all the sprinkler lines in there, and then I taped some the landscape material around the edge so dirt doesn't kind of come out between the bricks. And then before I fill it, I want to go ahead and pass through. This is for all the lights that are going to be in there, train lights and landscaping lights and stuff. There'll be a little transformer over here, so I'm going to go ahead and have this here so I don't have to dig it out later.
Cool. What kind of socks are you wearing?
What kind of socks am I wearing?
Yeah, what kind of socks are you wearing?
I don't know, normal socks.
Oh, I thought you'd be wearing garden hose.
You're ridiculous.
I know.
This electrical box came as an all-in-one thing. It's got the outlets in there. It's got a waterproof, bug-proof thing on it. And if you have something plugged in, it's got this little seal here that'll clip and lock in. I've got it wired into the GFCI circuit that's on the outside of the house, so it's all protected. And then on this side, I added the two connectors to the track power. So when I set the controllers out here, I just plug them in there, plug the thing in there, bam. And this is an outdoor 12 volt lighting transformer for these lights here, and that'll also be for any accessory lighting I do inside. I'll just use 12 volt LEDs for everything, and then everything's powered by here. You can turn it on and off with your phone.
Hey, baby.
Hey, baby.
What you doing?
Carving out the top of the tunnel where it goes in. You can see on that side where it's real square. I want it to look a little more tunnely, so I'm rounding out the thing. I gotta finish the top of the tunnel so I can cover it and then do the dirt and start planting everything.
Oh, very nice. You know, bricks are the happiest construction material.
Bricks are the happiest construction material?
Yeah, they're always getting laid.
Oh. That's bad.
I know.
Now this is G-scale track. I had a bunch of this, and this is the Bachmann Big Haulers track. This is great if you're putting a train around your Christmas tree or around your living room or something like that. But it's not great for outside. One is because, can you see? It's stamped. It's actually hollow. It's bent over. And the other thing is it's like a tin or a little, some kind of mild steelish type thing. It'll rust, it'll corrode, and it's not great outside. So I went on eBay and I got a bunch of used LGB track. Now this track is, can you see? It's solid. It's like brass or bronze or something. It's kind of heavy. And these plastic ties are made to hold up outside. I was originally thinking about making my own. I was going to get some 1/2-inch bar, I was going to bend it, and I was going to make a bunch of railroad ties, and it was going to be cool. And then I fell into the pit of going online and seeing what else was out there. If you can get this stuff on eBay for, geez, if you can find it for a couple bucks a foot, that's a good deal. Problem is, a lot of people will sell stuff like this, and they think it should be around the same price as good stuff like this. So you got to look out for that. You don't want to waste a bunch of money on the cheaper track. And if that's all you can get, that's great. But you need to make sure you're not overpaying for it. So I went with the LGB. These two corners are, I think, the 1100 series, which is the tightest turn they make. And a lot of the larger locomotives, they can't turn that sharp. But the train I have can, just barely. And that's going to be this upper one too. This curve over here is a wider curve. It's like a 1400, maybe a 1600. I think it's a 1600. It's a bigger curve. So I made these cardboard templates of the track. I traced them out so that when I'm laying this out, I can get those curves just right. This curve in here isn't as important because, like I said, the track is actually cutting across, so this is just going to be brick. I originally thought that this second layer would be kind of like a little mountain, and I was going to put a little mining tunnel in there, and I had some different ideas. I was going to put some figures there, and I still got this idea to use like an HO gauge track and make like little mining carts that go in, like they're a little hand. Anyway, but as I started making this, it just looked weird because the sides at the bottom are straight. They look kind of like a little castle. And then you get to the top and it just didn't look right. So I tore it all back down and I made the top more of a straight, just second thing. So we have the style of the planter, and then I really couldn't integrate the second level into a mountain as far as the stonework goes. I could always sort of build that out on one side later, but that's a separate thing.
Hey, baby.
Hey, baby.
What you doing?
I was working on the tunnel and just making sure that there's plenty of clearance on either side of the train as it turns. It kind of sticks out a lot up here in the front, so you got to make sure there's room.
How often does it get derailed?
Hopefully never.
Well, I know it's kind of hard to keep track.
Oh.
I couldn't be happier with this. We worked really hard to get it done before the summer heat hit, so the plants had a chance to get established. The look of it, the size of it, everything that I had decided on, all the little decisions along the way, fantastic. We got our different areas. We can do a little train station. I've already started doing a little campground, a little overlook. We've got this creeping rosemary here, which is good on potatoes, but also it's growing down over the canyon here. It's going to look fantastic. It's going to look even better when I finish the trestle bridge that's going to go across here. I don't have the circus set up right now, but this is the entranceway to the fairgrounds. It's a traveling show, so. coming around. Some of the plants are doing really well. These were white flowers up here, and then they kind of died off in the heat, but we'll see if they come back. This top one, it's just a loop, but it's great. It adds a nice little motion and counters the main line, the tunnel. The tunnel's great. It's fantastic. I picture maybe some bighorn sheep or like an eagle or something sitting here on this outcropping. Lots of stuff going on. There it is, my train planter in all of its glory. Thank you for watching. Thank you if you liked, subscribed, any of that. If you didn't, it's okay, I understand. If you have any questions about how I did any of this, let me know in the comments. If you got any suggestions for future editions, let me know. If I eventually fill this up, I do have a lot of yard space. I could very easily add a whole nother thing. Haha, yes! I don't know if I showed you before this little pedestal that I made with some spare bricks. It holds the controllers. Everything's easy to bring in and out.